Welcome to Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis. Today, I'm going to string my racket, Coach Goo's racket, 2 pounds looser in the cross. Stay tuned. All right, guys. So whenever I asked any player who's asked me to string their rackets 2 pounds looser in the cross, I've always asked them, why do you do that? And they're like, I don't know. My coach told me, or somebody told me, or that's just what I do. So I've never really gotten a clear explanation as to why players did that. Until Eric from Line told me that when you string the crosses 2 pounds looser, it allows for the mains to flow a little easier without the extra 2 pounds of tension holding it together and holding it tight. So 2 pounds makes a difference according to him and the pro players. I never knew that. I just thought it was something people did. But it makes sense. So what I did was I took Coach Goo's racket with his Torbite 15L. He usually does 53 pounds all around. I did 53 on the main and 51 on the cross. I took my own, which I usually do confidential, 16L, and I go 55 all around, but I did 53 on the cross. I'm taking it out to Coach, and we're going to try this. I'm not going to tell him what I did, though, because I want him to see like how it feels and describe how it feels to you and me and see if there is a noticeable difference off the bat. Okay? So let's go out to Coach Goo. All right, so we just got off the court. Coach Goo doesn't know what I did to his racket.
He doesn't tell me anything.
But I know what I did to mine, and it's the same as what I did to his. Now, Coach, what did you feel? You were complaining a lot.
No, not complaining. I was just noticing a difference. That was definitely he messed with my tension. That's what I know he did. I think he definitely changed some tensions between my mains and crosses, what I feel like.
Oh, you smart. You smart. What do you think I did then?
I think you went tighter than usual, but you did loosen. I feel like you loosened the crosses and then you tightened up the mains.
No, but similar. No, like, so what I did was I went regular 53 on your main.
Okay.
Went 51 on your cross, just 2 pounds less on the cross.
Yeah.
You felt that, huh?
I felt that, yeah. I can notice it, yeah. I can notice it.
What did you feel it doing?
It felt like it was launching the ball a lot further than it was actually, but when you get the hang of it, it started pocketing a lot well. It did pocket, it was just not used to the pocketing effect, because when you're playing with the same mains and crosses, it does feel a little more different. It does feel stiffer, so therefore, like, the ball can, you know, you can generate with more spin, but this one actually felt like it was launching a lot more. So I just had to, like, figure out, like, how much power and how much, like, I kind of emphasis on the swing I needed to focus on. But other than that, like, sooner or later when I got into it, it was pretty, like, I just knew how to play with it afterwards. But, like, you could tell there is a slight change of it, especially when it leaves. Like, when it makes contact, you don't feel it until it leaves. When it leaves, it almost becomes a whole different thing.
What does that mean, when it leaves?
So basically when the ball contact leaves, basically when I make that contact and basically when it grabs on,
yep,
it has a different feeling. So yep, when it leaves the racket, instead of, for me, when I expect with my other strings, it would kind of like have a shape, or like I would try to be like, okay, I can predict this is going to be like more of a higher spinning ball. This one I had less of a prediction, so it's more actually rewarding for you to penetrate through the ball.
Ah, okay, makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I learned from Eric, actually, from Line, that a lot of people do it this way so that they could get a little more freedom in the mains, so that it moves a little more freely when you drop it 2 pounds. So
It makes
it's not
sense.
as rigid.
It's not as rigid, so like it's kind of like, you know how like Nike fed those like custom shoes back in the day, like the Vapor Pro, like the Vapors, and they tailored it to his foot, right? Because it's like, you know, I want a shoe that breaks in really quickly. I don't want to have a shoe that works, you know, takes 2 weeks to break in. It's kind of like strings. Like the first time you get it off the string, you're like, "Ooh, it is tight. It's really tight." And you're like, "Holy crap! Okay, I gotta like break it in." Like you have the breaking strings. This one, I was like, "Okay, I feel like I've played with it for a few hours already, but it's a new string job." So it's like I'm getting used to it, but afterwards, it's like, okay, when I start to engage it in, it's actually easier to create topspin or like any type of spin because it's like it's already broken in. The freedom of the mains does make a difference, so therefore, like it helps you pocket and feel the ball a lot more. And yeah, I enjoyed it afterwards.
You've never had this done before, right?
No, I only had it done maybe. If I try to remember, I don't think so because I used to use like hybrid strings back in the junior days because, you know, to save your arm, but I always kept the same tension. Same tension both ways.
Okay. Yeah, I actually. I know exactly what you mean. There's like a broken in feeling on this. It's not as, like these are literally both fresh and we just hit with them for the first time.
Yeah.
And usually when I go out with this racket, I hear a ping, a ping, a ping, because it's tight and it's hard, like what you're saying, right? This one was like ping, like it didn't ring as hard as it normally does.
It just sounds like it's played in already.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I actually got a little more lift on the ball when I wanted to do that.
I was not used to it because I was like, oh, okay, like for tighter strings, you're like, okay, I got to really go after my coverage. This one's like, oh, I can actually just come over it naturally without any effort.
Yeah.
So it's like, for me, I think it's if you have tennis elbow, I think this is a better way for you to string it, especially if you are a person that still wants to use like polys.
Poly.
Yeah, and you still want to feel like, okay, I'm not really, you know, hurting my arm with a tight string or like keeping it all the same. But I think you can get away with this if you had any tennis elbow and you still want to use like all the polys.
Yep.
You can definitely get away with it. And
I can definitely see that.
Yeah,
actually.
and it actually feels great. Like it doesn't feel. It would take some adjusting. Like for me, like it took me some time to adjust because I was like, wow, the ball is lifting like crazy. But afterwards, it's like when you start to get the rhythm of it, you're like, okay, it's actually not that bad. It's actually even easier to like strike your ball through the court versus like worrying about, okay, when is the like tension gonna go?
Less effort.
Yes, way less effort.
Yeah. See, when our first 10 minutes, he's like, you mess with my weighting. I'm like, no, I didn't mess with your weighting.
Yeah, at first
he thought I messed with the balance of his racket.
I thought about it first, but I was like, when I was swinging it more and more, I was like, it's not really the racket. And then afterwards, it's like, okay, it's definitely the strings. Because like, what I felt like now, like when I was striking it, I was like, okay, it feels different. It doesn't feel like, it feels like it's broken in. Like Harry has played with my racket for at least a few days.
Yeah. No. Oh yeah. No, I didn't. But yeah. But I know what you mean. But I know what you mean.
Is that true, Harry? Do you play with my rackets all the
Yeah,
time?
I was just put on the ground like Bjorn and just like. I did the gorilla on Samsonite.
This is why I never trust Harry with anything.
Samsonite. Remember the Samsonite commercial with the gorilla? That's what I did to Goose. Yeah. You're too young for that. Anyways, but yes, easier pocketing, more pocketing actually. Easy for that main to snap and free flow. So I mean, I've asked players like Coach Gu in the collegiate level, when they asked me to do 2 pounds less on the cross, I was like, why do you do that? They all give me that blank stare. I don't know. That's what coach told me to do. Or that's what my friend told me to do. Or that's what my dad told me to do. But I was like, do you know why you do it? They're like, no. So, you know, now we know why, okay? Because we just experienced it. 2 pounds, probably the max I would go. Anything more than that starts to damage the frame, okay? 2 pounds. So unless you know, can afford a ton of frames, because it will eventually probably give out like down here in the shoulders. Or if you hit an overhead, it will crack here, 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 because there's too much weight coming in one way. Okay? All right. Coach Gu, any final thoughts? Would you recommend this?
Yeah, I would recommend it. I mean, it's a fun experiment. I get why. I get why now even the Europeans will do it this way too. Some of the pros will definitely do it. So yeah, I definitely recommend it, especially if people are, wanting to try something new with their cold poly to maybe give it a little more edge in their game or a little bit ahead of the competition. Or just like if you're a person that has tennis elbow and you still want to use like polys, all the poly strings in the world, and you want to have some leniency of, not breaking in a new, fresh string, this is the way to go.
Right. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. Yeah, I like it. I may continue to do this, actually. Because,
me too.
Yeah.
I think it's easier. I I don't have to freaking go through strings.
You don't have to go to the break-in period.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the strings may last longer, too.
I think so, too, yeah.
Yep. Guys, please thank Coach Gu with me. Where can we find you?
You can find me at AGU.tennis. I'll also be posting content there as well.
All right. Guys, thank you for watching Tennis Spin, where we put our spin on your tennis.
Oh, man.
Need a string job? Need a string job today? All you have to do is launch your app at Direct Tennis, call out the stringer. Your stringer can come pick it up from you, or you could take it there. They're in your neighborhood. It's as simple and as easy as that. Find your stringer today at directtennis.online.